The outpost always smelled like pine sap, diesel, and wet rope. The kind of smell that clung to your clothes and your skin so long, you stopped noticing it until you left. Storm air sat heavy over the ridge that morning, charged and strange. It made my teeth feel too big in my mouth. I walked out of the equipment shed with a coil of line on my shoulder and a radio clipped to my belt. The ground was damp under my boots. The sky was low and gray. I told myself the flutter in my chest was nothing, just coffee, just altitude, just another day in the middle of nowhere. I counted the steps to the porch like always. 12, from the shed to the first riser. 4 up to the deck. I made it to 8 before the world tilted. My vision pinched down to a narrow tunnel. The trees stretched and warped. Then the ground snapped up and hit my face. Gravel tore at my cheek. My teeth slammed together. Iron taste filled my mouth. Sound went weird. My ears filled with a thin, high ringing like a bad radio frequency. Somewhere behind it, I heard the generator cough once and die. The soft hum that always sat in the background of the outpost cut off. Boots hit wood. Fast! The porch boards thudded as someone took the last 3 steps in a jump. I knew that stride before I saw her. Kieran. Not Holt, not Medic, not Hay. Just my name, thrown like a line. Elena. Her knees hit the dirt beside me. Cold mud splashed my arm. Her hands were already moving, sure and fast. 2 fingers pressed to the side of my neck. Then, my wrist. Then back to my throat like she refused to trust the first answer. Her jaw flexed once, hard, when her fingers didn't find what they wanted. No pulse, she said under her breath. It was more to herself than to anyone else. Kieran, look at me. Stay with me. I tried. The edges of the world were fading. Her face hung above mine, framed by loose brown hair that had come free from its clip. Her eyes were sharp and too bright, like someone had turned the dimmer all the way up. She yanked my jacket open with one hard pull. Cold air hit my chest. She planted the heel of one hand in the center of my sternum, stacked the other over it, locked her elbows, and started compressions. The first push drove a rough sound out of me. The second sent pain across my ribs. The third fell into a hard, steady rhythm. Ruthless, perfect timing. The kind of rhythm that comes from years of refusing to let people die. 1, 2, 3. She counted under her breath. Her voice was tight and controlled. Not panicked, not soft, professional. My vision flickered. Her face blurred and sharpened, in time with the pressure on my chest. She stopped for a second and slid her fingers back to my neck. Her touch was firm and careful. She went still. A faint throb pushed back against her fingertips. Thin, stubborn, wrong. Her breath hitched, tiny and sharp. Not relief. Recognition. She leaned down and pressed her ear to my chest through my shirt. Her hair brushed my chin. She listened like the whole world depended on the sound under her cheek. Her eyes narrowed. Her head tilted slightly, tracking the beat inside me. My heart was not steady. It stuttered, skipped, ran too fast, then fell back like it could not decide what it wanted to be. "Knock it off," she whispered. Not for me. It was like she was talking straight to my heart, trying to drag it back into line. Her hand slid to my jaw and tilted my head so my airway stayed open. Her thumb sat along my cheekbone, warm and steady. Then the edge in her control cracked. "Not here," she murmured, voice dropping into something raw. "Not like this." Her free hand fumbled for her radio on her belt, thumb slamming the transmit button. "CL, this is Vance," she snapped. "Collapse outside the main cabin. Irregular rhythm. Bring the monitor and oxygen now." Static answered first. The ringing in my ears surged. Another voice broke through, high and scared. She didn't look up. Her eyes stayed on mine. She set her palm flat over my sternum again, not pressing hard, just holding me there like she could keep my heart from flying apart with the weight of her hand. "Kieran," she said low, "breathe with me. In, out. Do not leave me in the dirt." Quote, It was not a plea, it was an order. My lungs grabbed onto it. Something stubborn inside me dug in. I did not black out. Not all the way. The world faded. Came back in jerks, like a bad radio signal. Voices, movement, hands. The cold bite of metal against my chest when they put the monitor leads on. The elastic sting of an oxygen mask around my head. Then, nothing. The next clear thing was light. White ceiling. Hum of a small heater. The smell of alcohol wipes and plastic. I lay on the exam table in the clinic room that doubled as storage. Paper crinkled under my back. The thin blanket scratched my skin where my shirt had been cut open and taped back together. Outside, wind worked the trees with slow, heavy pushes. The storm was still building. I could hear it in the way the cabin walls creaked. Elena stood at the counter with her back to me. White blouse. Dark pants. Hair pulled back tight again. On paper, she should have looked soft, after what had happened outside the cabin. Like the woman who had braced over me and whispered to my chest. Instead, she moved like a door with a lock thrown. She finished writing on a chart, then did something small that told me more than any lecture. She buttoned her blouse one button higher than she had to. Precise. Defensive. A layer of armor and cotton. Her stethoscope hung around her neck like a shield. When she turned, her eyes did not go to my face first. They went to the EKG strip clipped to the board beside me. Black spikes marched across the paper. To most people, they looked like nonsense. To her, they were teeth. "Deep breath," she said. Her voice had slid back onto the frequency she used on every patient. "Dr. Vance now." Not just Elena. I inhaled. My ribs throbbed under the band from the compressions. Part of me wanted to joke about it. The rest of me remembered gravel and her hands and shut up. "I'm cleared for duty," I said. "Right? Whatever that was, it's gone." Her pen tapped once against the chart, a small, sharp sound. "The rhythm is not gone," she said. "It is quiet. Those are different things." Quote. She stepped closer and placed the cold bell of the stethoscope against my chest. Her face stayed neutral, not soft, not hard, just shut. Her hand brushed my shoulder as she moved the scope. Warm skin, cool metal, practiced distance. "Any dizziness since you woke up?" she asked. "No," I said. "No spinning. No fainting." "Palpitations?" "Only when I think about you doing CPR on me," I said before my brain could stop my mouth. Her fingers tightened on the rubber tubing for half a second. Her eyes flicked up, sharp enough to cut. Then she dropped them back to the chart. "That never happened," she said. It landed like a slap, but not because it was cruel. It was a wall. She needed it. I knew that. It still stung. I opened my mouth to answer. The clinic door banged open before I could speak. Sterling walked in like the room belonged to him. His jacket was too clean for this place. His boots were barely muddy. He carried a tablet case under his arm like a badge. He looked at Elena first, then at me, on the table with my shirt half open and the monitor still clipped to my finger. His smile spread slow, like a man who enjoyed finding problems. "Dr. Vance," he said. "Lead medic Kieran Holt." I see I came at an interesting time. Elena did not move away from the counter. She did not step closer either. "Sterling," she said. No title, no warmth. He held up the tablet. "Audit begins now. Storm or no storm, I have compliance gaps to close. I'm told this outpost is creative." My heart, which had barely settled, did a small, angry jump. His gaze slid to the stethoscope around her neck, then to the bruise I could feel forming at my collarbone from her compressions. "Did the clinic handle an incident without proper reporting?" he asked. "Because that would be a problem." Elena's pen did not pause. "It was reported," she said. "It will be logged in full." Outside, thunder rolled over the ridge. The timing felt like the sky was making a comment. My chest still ached where her hands had pushed life back into me. Sterling smelled weakness and control in the same room. The storm was coming closer, and I had the sudden cold feeling that what happened in the dirt beside the porch was only the start of a much bigger fight. By noon, the sky turned the color of old metal. Clouds sat low over the trees. The wind came in thick, heavy pushes. Rain started as a steady sheet, then turned sideways hard enough to sting skin when it hit. The generator held for a while, then coughed and died. We switched to battery power and backup systems. Lights dimmed. The outpost felt smaller immediately. Sterling did not care. He sat up at the clinic desk with his tablet, papers spread out like he was at some office downtown, instead of sitting in a wooden box on a mountain. "This audit will continue," he said over the sound of rain on the roof. "Storm or no storm, you cannot hide behind weather, Dr. Vance." Elena stood in the doorway with her arms folded. Her white blouse looked wrong in this light, too clean against the shadows and the emergency lantern glow. "The weather does not care what you need," she said. "We triage. Documentation moves to the clinic. Stay out of the main hall when we move patients in gear." He opened his mouth to argue. A sharp crack came from the lodge roof. Then the heavy, ugly groan of weight shifting where it should not. Elena's eyes snapped to mine. No words, just a clear command. We both ran. The lodge sat lower than the clinic, closer to the slope. Water already pushed under the door and up over the floorboards. The hallway was a shallow river. Boots splashed. People dragged duffel bags and cases through ankle-deep water. I saw it as soon as we hit the front. The heavy porch overhang was sagging. One support post leaned at a bad angle, the joint above it dark and wet. Another few minutes and it would come down. "Everybody out!" I shouted. "Now!" Elena repeated it with more authority. "Move! Grab only what you can carry in one hand, out of the lodge, up to the main cabin." People listened to her. Sterling did not. He stood in the hall with his tablet held high, watching his suitcase get wet like the water had insulted him on purpose. "Sterling," Elena's voice sharpened. "Now." He hesitated. Pride, money, whatever he protected in that tablet made him slow. I did not wait. I grabbed his elbow and hauled him forward. "Move." The moment our boots cleared the doorframe, the sagging overhang let go. The crunch was loud, even over the storm. Wood snapped. The porch roof crashed down into the flooded walkway in a spray of broken boards and dirty water. Sterling stumbled and stared at the mess, pale. "Your quarters are compromised," Elena said, breathing hard. "The clinic has 2 rooms. One is storage, one is mine. You can sleep in the truck if you prefer." He flushed. "I am not sleeping in a truck." "You are not sleeping in my clinic," she said. Her voice dropped lower, not louder. The air shifted. "Not while the storm is active." His jaw worked. His eyes flicked from her to me. "And Holt?" he asked, like I was a line item he needed to move. Elena did not blink. "Holt is on medical duty," she said. "He stays near me." The words were clinical. The meaning behind them was not. We moved supplies to the main cabin, the only structure high enough to stay dry. The storm kept building. Wind slammed the walls. Rain hit the windows so hard it sounded like fists. Inside the narrow kitchen, Elena stripped off her soaked coat. Her blouse underneath was damp at the sleeves. She hung the coat near the stove, jaw tight, shoulders drawn in. I shrugged out of my own jacket. My shirt was dry enough. She stood close to the stove, pretending she was only checking the flame. I could see the way her hands shook once, quick, before she curled them into fists. I stepped behind her and laid my jacket over her shoulders before she could reach for another excuse. The weight settled around her. Warmth moved between us with the fabric. Her hand stilled. She lifted her chin like she was going to shrug it off and hand it back. Then a shiver hit, sharp and strong, rolling from her shoulders down her spine. Her breath caught. She held my jacket tighter around herself without saying anything. She did not look at me. She stared at the stove, like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Outside, thunder rolled close. Inside, the space between us filled with things neither of us had room to say. Sterling refused to lie down. Instead, he parked himself at the small table with his tablet. headlamp strapped to his forehead, lantern propped beside his notes. He went through every log like he was hunting for blood. Medication counts, maintenance reports, training records. Any gap he found he circled and turned into a speech. "This is exactly what I mean," he said, tapping the screen. "Informal modifications. Unapproved supply swaps. You may get away with this out here, Holt, but the program does not." Elena answered him in the same calm, flat tone every time. "We file substitutions within 24 hours. Chain of custody is intact. Every narcotic count is double-signed." He pushed. She pushed back with dates and signatures. No heat, just fact. I sat by the door with the shotgun across my knees, listening to the wind try to peel the roof off. Being confined in a room with Sterling while the storm beat on the walls felt like being trapped with two threats at once. At some point, one of the younger medics burst in with his hand clamped over his forearm. Blood ran between his fingers, red and bright. "Doc," he said, "window broke. I caught the frame." Sterling opened his mouth. Elena held a hand up at him without even looking. "Sit," she told the medic. He obeyed. She cleaned the gash with steady hands while the cabin creaked under gusts. Needle in, needle out, stitch, pull, knot, cut. Her fingers were quick and sure. "You're good," she said when she finished. "Keep it dry." "Thanks, Doc," he said, shoulders dropping in relief. Elena nodded once, already reaching for the chart. Her eyes met mine across the room for half a second. In that brief look, I saw the tiredness under the control, the way her jaw ached from being held tight for too long. I did not call it out. I just took a cup, filled it with clean water, and slid it down the counter to where she could reach it without making a big thing out of it. She picked it up. No thanks. No commentary. She drank anyway. Sterling watched all of it with narrowed eyes, like he was building a case in his head. Around midnight, the temperature dropped. The stove fought to keep up. The storm won. We ran out of dry blankets. We ran out of dry socks. The wet settled into the cabin and into the bones of everyone inside. Elena went to the back storage room to check the emergency kits. I grabbed a flashlight and followed. The small space smelled like alcohol wipes, old cardboard, and damp wool. She crouched in front of a low shelf, flipping through labeled bins. Her hair had come loose again. One strand was stuck to her cheek. She pushed it back with the back of her wrist, still scanning labels. "Sterling wants me to sign off on his report before morning," she said. "He is pushing an improper operations narrative." "What does he really want?" I asked. "Control," she said without hesitation. "A scapegoat. If he can make this outpost look reckless, he gets to reshape the whole program." She finally looked up at me. Her eyes were steady, dark, direct. "And you?" I asked quietly. "I don't lose," she said. "Just that. No extra words." She reached past me toward the top shelf for a folded wool blanket. The space was tight. Her fingers brushed my wrist. It was barely a touch. Hardly anything. It still felt like a spark. We both froze. For 1 second, the storm outside and the creak of the cabin disappeared. There was only the heat under that small contact. Then we both pulled back at the same time, like the touch burned, and we were not ready to admit we wanted it. She cleared her throat. "Extra blankets," she said briskly, as if that could erase whatever passed between us. She tucked the wool under her arm like a shield and stepped around me to go back to the main room. Lightning flashed white through the cracked curtain. Thunder chased it a second later. The walls shuddered. By morning, the storm had not moved on. It had settled in deeper. The cabin was cold enough that our breath showed. The lantern glass was slick with condensation. Sterling had finally passed out at the table, face down on his tablet, fingers still curled around his stylus. Elena had not slept. She moved slower now, not weak, just worn. It showed in the way she rolled her shoulders before lifting a bag, the way she paused for half a second before turning when someone said her name. I got the stove going again. The fire was stubborn, the wood was damp. My fingers were stiff as I coaxed the flame until it caught solid. Elena sat on the floor near the vent with her socks off, wringing them out with careful, angry hands. She set them close to the stove to dry, then flexed her toes like she was reminding them they were still attached. I filled the kettle and set it on the grate. After a few minutes, the metal started to hum. Elena opened one of the lower cabinets and dug around. Her hand came back with a crumpled paper bag. "Earl Grey," she said under her breath. For the first time in 2 days, something like a small, private smile crossed her face. It was gone quickly, but I saw it. She set 2 enamel mugs on the counter. I poured the hot water over the tea bags. The scent rose sharp and clean. Black tea and citrus cut through the smoke and damp wool hanging in the room. We moved around each other in that narrow kitchen without bumping. I shifted left when she stepped right. She reached for the sugar around my shoulder. I passed her the spoon without looking. No collisions, no apologies, just a rhythm. She wrapped both hands around her mug and lifted it to her lips. Heat flushed color back into her cheeks. Her shoulders lowered a fraction. I watched her for a second too long. She felt it. Her eyes flicked up, caught mine, then dropped back to the steam. Not rejection, not invitation, something in between. Outside, the wind hit the walls again. The storm was far from done. Inside that cramped kitchen, with Earl Grey steam rising between us and my jacket still around her shoulders, I realized something I had been trying not to say even to myself. If this place went down, I was more afraid of losing her than losing the job, the outpost, or the program. And the storm was still just getting started. The storm finally started to thin around evening. The rain eased from rage to steady, stubborn tapping on the roof. The wind dropped from a roar to a low, tired moan. The cabin felt less like a shaking box and more like a place again. I sat by the radio with a blanket over my shoulders and the headset half on. Static hissed and popped in my ear. Most of it was weather noise. Then a broken voice cut through it. "Mayday, mayday, engine failure, smoke, mayday." I sat up straight. "Say again," I said into the mic. "This is Outpost Ridge." "Repeat, your last." Static chewed the edges of the reply, but the words were still clear enough to hit like a punch. "Air Tanker 21. Engine failure. Ridgeline. Going down. Smoke in the cabin. Mayday." The radio snapped silent. I was already on my feet. "Elena," I called. She came into the room at a run, hair loose, face pale and steady at the same time. "What is it?" she asked. I pointed to the radio. "Air Tanker 21. Ridgeline. He is going down." She grabbed the mic and pressed transmit. Her voice went hard and clean. "Air Tanker 21. This is Dr. Vance at the outpost. If you hear me, key your mic twice." We waited. The only sound was the soft buzz of the radio and the wind outside. 2 short clicks answered. She closed her eyes for one brief second. Then she opened them again with a new kind of focus. "Command, this is Vance," she said. "Possible crash on the West Ridge. We need air support and ground search. Outpost team will move to locate." The reply came from Regional Command, far away, tired, full of worry. "Copy, Vance. You have storm damage on access routes. Do not take unnecessary risks. Air unit will divert, but you are our closest team." "We go," she said. "Send me coordinates as soon as you lock the beacon." She dropped the mic and turned toward the door already. Sterling stepped in at the same time. He looked like he had not slept at all. His hair was a mess. His eyes were sharp with anger. "What was that?" he demanded. "Pilot down on the ridge," Elena said. She was already pulling the trauma bag from the shelf. "We are taking the truck as far as we can, then going on foot." "No," Sterling said. "You are not going anywhere. The storm has damaged the roads. You do not have authorization for a field extraction. This is exactly the kind of reckless behavior my audit is about." Elena did not flinch. She shoved oxygen and IV kits into the bag with quick, neat motions. "A pilot is alive out there," she said. "We go." Sterling stepped into her path, hand out like he could physically stop her. "You will stand down," he said. "I will call the regional office and get a decision. You do not make this call on your own, Dr. Vance. If you do, I will terminate you and Holt both." His eyes cut to me like I was a piece of gear he could threaten. I stepped closer to Elena, shoulder almost touching hers. "Regional office is 2 hours away on a clear day," I said. "He will bleed out or burn long before they finish holding a meeting." Sterling's gaze snapped to me. "Holt, you will remember your role. You are not command." "My role is keeping people alive," I said. "That is what I am remembering." Elena's eyes met mine. For a second, concern and something softer moved under the surface. Then her jaw set. She looked back at Sterling. "Put your threat in writing," she said calmly. "You can send it after we bring him home." She walked past him. He grabbed for her arm. I shifted forward and put my body between them, not touching him, but making it clear he would have to go through me to reach her. His hand dropped. We did not waste more time. We took the truck as far as we could. The access road was a wreck. Mudslides had carved pieces out of it. Fallen limbs and small washouts forced us to slow again and again. Smoke started as a faint gray line in the distance. Then it thickened. The air grew warmer, heavier, tinged with the sharp smell of burning resin. We hit a section of road where the asphalt had completely washed away. A deep cut ran across the path. Water still trickled through it like a wound. "We walk from here," I said. Elena nodded. She grabbed the trauma bag. I took the oxygen and the extra gear. The pack dug into my shoulders as we climbed out of the truck. Heat pressed down on us as we moved uphill. Ash drifted in the air like dirty snow. The sound of the fire was a steady, low roar somewhere beyond the trees. My chest still ached from the arrhythmia and her compressions, but my legs kept moving. This was what I was built for. Carry weight, climb, show up. We followed the coordinates command sent, moving through thick brush and over slick rocks. The smoke grew heavier. My lungs burned. Elena pulled a cloth up over her mouth and nose. Her eyes watered, but her steps stayed sure. We found the wreck on the ridge line. The air tanker lay broken between two charred pines. One wing was torn open. Metal was twisted and blackened. Fuel stains marked the ground in dark streaks. The pilot sat slumped against a rock near the broken nose. His flight suit was soot-stained. Blood matted his hair. His chest rose and fell in short, uneven pulls. Elena dropped to her knees beside him. "Sir," she said, already checking his airway and pulse. "Can you hear me? Blink if you can hear me." His eyelids fluttered. One slow blink. His lips parted, but no clear words came out. "Breathing is shallow," she said. "Arm fracture. Possible rib injuries? Smoke inhalation?" She snapped open the trauma bag and worked. Oxygen mask, splint material, bandages, IV setup. Every movement was precise and fast. I cleared debris from around his legs and checked for other wounds. His right arm was bent at a bad angle. His skin was hot and slick under my fingers. I glanced up. "Fire is coming," I said. She scanned the tree line. Flames were not visible yet, but the heat on our faces was rising and smoke was thickening. "We stabilize and move," she said. "We do not have time to be gentle." We worked together in a quick practice dance. I held his arm while she splinted it. She started an IV while I adjusted the oxygen strap. We wrapped his ribs as best we could without crushing his breath. He groaned once when we lifted him. "I know," Elena said quietly. "Stay with us, you are not done yet." I got him onto my back in a fireman's carry. His weight settled heavy across my shoulders. My ribs complained. My heart thumped hard in my chest, but it held steady. Elena took the oxygen line, keeping the mask in place. One hand braced on the pilot's shoulder to keep him from sliding. We pushed back toward the clearing command had marked as a possible pickup zone. The heat grew worse. Ash fell thicker. My mouth tasted like smoke. "This way," Elena said, pointing with her chin. Her voice stayed steady, but I could hear the strain under it. We reached the clearing right as the wind shifted. Flame leapt across the ground on the far side in a fast, bright line. Dry brush caught in a rush. Fire crawled up a tree and raced along low branches. Heat hit us like a wall. I took 2 steps back on instinct. Elena grabbed my sleeve and yanked me sideways away from a patch of ground that flared bright with sudden fire. Her eyes locked on mine. "Look at me," she said. I did. Her face was streaked with ash. Sweat cut clean channels down her temples. Her pupils were wide. Her lips were dry and determined. "Kieran," she said. The way she said my name reached past fear and smoke and pain. "Do not do something stupid because you think you have to." Quote. The words landed deep. I swallowed past the tightness in my throat. "I am not planning to die for a point," I said. I shifted the pilot's weight carefully. My hand rose, almost without my permission, to frame her jaw. My thumb brushed a smear of soot off her cheek. I stopped there, inches from more, waiting. Her gaze flicked down to my mouth, then back to my eyes. Her breathing hitched. Then she leaned in first. The kiss was brief and hard. A collision in the middle of smoke and heat and fear. Not soft, not polite, real. We broke apart because we had to breathe. Her forehead brushed mine. "Do not stop," she whispered. Her voice shook, but the words were clear. It was consent, simple and bright. Not for now, but for us. Then she pulled in a sharp breath and turned toward the sky, snapping back into command. "SAR-1, this is Vance," she called into the radio. "We are at the clearing. Pilot is with us. Fire is advancing. We need a pickup now." The answer came over the radio with the chop of rotor blades somewhere beyond the smoke. "Copy, Vance. Visual on your smoke." 2 minutes out. Quote. 2 minutes felt like forever standing in a ring of heat, with a broken man on my shoulders and flames creeping closer. Elena moved to my side, one hand steady on the pilot, the other gripping the radio. We stood there, 3 hearts beating hard in the middle of a burning ridge, waiting for the sound of the rotors to grow louder and for the sky to open a way out. The sound of rotors started as a low thump under the roar of the fire. It grew louder, chopping through the smoke, shaking the air around us. Ash whipped up in small swirls. Elena turned toward the noise, one hand tight on the radio. "SAR-1, this is Vance," she said. "We are in the clearing. 3 souls. Smoke is heavy. Fire approaching from the south side." "Copy, Vance," the pilot answered. "Visual on you. Hold position." The helicopter broke through the smoke like a ghost. It dropped low over the clearing, skids hovering a few feet above the ground. Wind from the blades hammered us, pushing smoke sideways and flattening the grass. "Go!" Elena shouted. We ran under the rotors, heads low. Heat chased our backs. A burning branch snapped off a tree and slammed into the dirt right where Elena had been 1 second before. I grabbed her around the waist and yanked her sideways. She stumbled into me. The pilot on my shoulders groaned. She did not waste the moment. She used my pull to pivot, keeping the pilot steady and the oxygen line clear. We moved as one unit to the open door. Hands reached down from inside the helicopter. We lifted the injured pilot up and into waiting arms. Elena climbed in right after him, crouching low, holding the oxygen mask to his face and checking his IV line. I pulled myself in last and slammed the door shut. "Lift!" Elena yelled, voice sharp over the rotor noise. The helicopter rose. Fire rolled under us, eating brush and low branches. The clearing we had just crossed lit with bright, angry flame. We flew back over the valley toward the outpost. From above, the cabins looked small. The storm had passed, but the damage it left was visible in broken trees and torn ground. When we landed at the dirt pad near the clinic, ash still fell off our clothes in soft gray clouds. The pilot was rushed out on a stretcher toward the main cabin where they could set up more gear. His face was pale. His chest still rose and fell. That was enough for the moment. Sterling was waiting at the edge of the pad. His hair was wild. His suit was stained with ash. He still had his tablet in his hand. He started yelling before the rotors stopped spinning. "You violated protocol," he shouted. "You ignored a direct instruction from administration. You endangered program assets. This is insubordination and gross misconduct." Elena stepped off the skid. Her shoulders were straight, even though I could see the way her legs shook from effort. She did not look at him first. She looked at the medics rushing the pilot inside. Then she lifted her radio. "Command, this is Dr. Vance," she said. Her voice was calm and clear. Mission successful. Pilot recovered alive. Lead medic Holt assisted with field stabilization and extraction. Patient en route to definitive care. There was a pause. Then Regional Command answered. Copy, Vance. Good work. Keep us updated on his status. Quote. Elena nodded once and lowered the radio. Only then did she turn to face Sterling. He stalked toward us, tablet clenched in his hand. I am terminating both of you, he said. Effective immediately. You will hand in your credentials. You are done here. Elena reached into her jacket pocket. For a second, I thought she was going for something sharp. Instead, she pulled out a small, weathered notebook. The cover was stained and bent. Pages were thick from damp and use. She held it out. Here, she said, this is the safety record you wanted. Every medication count, every incident, every decision we made while the storm and the fire hit us. Times, names, vitals, actions. Sterling stared at the notebook like it offended him. And one more thing you should know, she added. Her voice did not rise. It got quieter. That pilot we just pulled off the ridge is Jason Harrow. Sterling frowned. So? He is the chairman's nephew, she said. The same chairman who signs off on your audit. You can explain to him why you tried to stop the rescue, so you could make me sign your spreadsheet. Quote. Sterling's face changed. His eyes darted to the clinic where Jason was being wheeled inside. He looked back at the notebook. He snatched it from her hand like he was taking something she cared about. He did not say another word. He turned on his heel and walked away, boots kicking ash, shoulders tight with swallowed anger. Elena watched him go. Then she let out one long breath, like air had been trapped inside her since the moment I hit the dirt outside the cabin. The outpost did not cheer. There were no high fives. No big speeches. We went back to work. We scrubbed smoke out of gear. We refilled the trauma bag. We checked on Jason twice. We logged the rescue in the official system and in Elena's worn notebook. Smoke hung on the horizon, but it was farther away now. By the time the sun dropped, the cabin was quiet again. People slept in shifts. Sterling stayed in a corner with his tablet and his anger. Late that night, when the last report was finally filed and the radio went still, I found Elena in the kitchen. She moved slower now. The fight had drained out of her shoulders, leaving plain exhaustion behind. I fed the stove the last of the dry wood. The fire cracked and popped, pushing out a circle of solid warmth. The folded paper bag of Earl Grey sat on the counter where she had left it earlier. She picked it up, smoothed the top with her thumb, and took out 2 tea bags. She filled 2 enamel mugs with hot water, steam curled up in soft white ribbons. The scent of black tea and citrus cut through smoke and sweat. She held one mug out to me. Our fingers touched around the handle. This time, neither of us pulled back. We stood in that narrow kitchen with maybe 2 feet between us. The rest of the cabin was quiet. I could hear the soft tick of metal cooling on the stove and the wind brushing the walls instead of punching them. Elena looked up at me. Her eyes were dark and tired and clear. You scared me, she said. Just that. 4 plain words. I swallowed. The dull ache in my ribs reminded me of her hands on my chest in the mud. I've been scared too, I said. I forced myself to keep it simple. Not of the storm, not of the fire. I was scared of losing you. It was under 25 words. It still felt like more than I had said to anyone in years. Her throat moved as she swallowed. She set her mug down on the counter with a soft clink and stepped closer. Her hand found my wrist. Her fingers were warm and steady around the place where my pulse beat. Tell me you are not doing this to make the audit go away, she said. Her voice was quiet but sharp. I'm doing this because I want you, I said. No charts, no forms, not as my doctor, as you. There was a pause, the kind of pause where a whole life can tilt. Her fingers tightened once around my wrist, then her other hand came up to my waist, anchoring me like I might bolt. Good, she said. Because if you ever use me as an excuse or make my authority your shield, I walk. I know, I said. That's why I'm asking instead of assuming. Her mouth softened, just a little. Enough. She rose onto her toes. I bent my head. The kiss was different this time. Not a crash in fire and smoke. Slow. Deep. Careful in all the ways that mattered and not careful at all in the ways we both wanted. She tasted like Earl Grey and ash and something that felt like relief. When we broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. Our breaths mixed in the small space between us. Outside, the wind had died down. The storm had moved on. The fire still burned out there somewhere, but farther away. Inside the cabin, the stove glowed. The tea steamed. The silence did not feel like fear anymore. It felt earned. She had braced over me in the dirt and almost pushed my heart back into rhythm with her bare hands. She had whispered, "Not here. Not like this. Like the place and the moment were wrong for losing me." Now we were here, storm behind us. Fire survived. Audit still hanging over our heads, but less sharp with every page of truth. Her hands stayed on me. Mine stayed on her. And for the first time since my heart had tried to jump out of my chest, I felt something simple and solid under all the fear. I was not leaving her in the dirt. And she was not letting go.